This is a very exciting day for us here at NetBrain. My name is Song, and I'm the SVP of Engineering here at NetBrain. And I'm joined by Raj Jain, who's our Manager of Pre-Sales Demo and Engineering today. Together, we have the privilege of unveiling our latest release of NetBrain, NetBrain Next-Gen. Now, we call it Next-Gen because this is a big monumental release for us. It took many months and years of innovation for us to get to this point. It significantly enhances the power, capability, and value of our no-code automation platform. Now, taking a step back a little bit and taking a look at the purpose of NetBrain. Our mission is to create no-code automation platform that can be built, that have automations that can be built by anyone and automations that can be used by everyone. The idea of the platform is that your most senior engineers, now everyone has network knowledge that can be shared and used by everyone else. They can, through the no-code platform, be able to build their intelligence into NetBrain to accomplish a number of different use cases. Now, whether it's becoming outage prevention, diagnosis automation, application performance, ensuring network security, or conducting protective change. We've seen our customers use our no-code platform to be able to accomplish many different types of creative use cases out there. And with today's release, we hope to bring a lot more. And we hope that all of our customers join in on the no-code movement and utilize our platform to be able to build something that's valuable for their organization. When we thought about NetBrain Next-Gen, we really thought out to improve a number of different things. Now, I've categorized them into 3 different dimensions here today. Number 1, we thought about bringing our NetBrain automation output to the Next-Gen. How do we make it so that more and of our automations that are built, tens of thousands of automations that our customers are building into our platform, how do we make it easier for other users to view the results and the output? Second is we really want to increase the power, but also make it easier for our customer engineers to be able to build their own automation. Now, the best type of automation is also reusable and modular. And for the first time, we introduced that concept into NetBrain. So to make it so that reusability, modularity becomes a big focus of automation. We also extend our no-code automation platform to the cloud and SDN. So now there are no blind spots to be able to build our diagnosis and the various different types of creative solutions that our customers have been coming up with. Last but not least, we really thought about how do we take the execution of our automation to the Next-Gen. Now, we have a number of different ways to execute automation today, whether it's through map. A lot of our customers are triggering from their ITSM systems, but how can we do better? Our customers have challenged us to think of ways where we make automation more accessible for more different types of users. And we think we've made a big stride in that today. So because there's so many different things here that we have here with us, instead of introducing it feature by feature, we really thought about scheduling or organizing our webinar here today based on the 3 main use cases. And we really want to talk about how next-gen automation can be applied to preventive automation, diagnosis automation, and application performance. These are the 3 things that we hear most from our customers as well on how do we do better. So without further ado, let's start with preventive automation. Preventive automation is a very challenging thing. And this is a lot of folks have seen this as the holy grail of network automation. It's difficult because to be able to acknowledge or prevent issues from happening, there needs to be thousands and thousands of automations built in terms of intent to prevent problems in the network, whether it's looking at whether or not config is drifting, whether or not your failover points are functioning as they should. There are just so many different points within a network to be able to build automation for. Now, up to this point, we built a system where it can be easily replicated and automation can be easily spread across the network. But secondly, we got to think about how frequently can these automations be run? And these enforcements need to happen at a Goldilocks frequency. Not so frequent so that it taxes your environment or your network, but also not so infrequent where it doesn't catch the problem. Last but not least, when we have tens of thousands of automations present in a network, how do we visualize and consume the automation results? Not one device at a time or a map at a time, but the entire network at a time. So a little bit of a recap of preventive automation today. NetBrain, up to this point, can take any outages, any critical path, critical design rules that you have, or critical redundancy points, and turn them through our no-code platform into an intent, an automation unit. This now then can be replicated to tens and thousands of automations that are spread across your network. So you take one instance of the problem or one instance of the design, and you replicate to all instances of this design across your network. The challenge has always been, how do we then now visualize and consume all this automation from a network wide? And today we want to introduce to you our new feature in NetBrain Next-Gen, our dashboard of automation. We want to use our dashboard to answer any of your network-wide questions. So it could be whether it's config drift, whether or not you have config drifts across your entire network, whether you're drifting from before or they're drifting from a golden rule. We also want to answer some network questions like, are your failovers working and are configurations drifted? We also hear a lot of questions our customers are asking is, what about my critical links and devices about their capacity? Do I need to consider making changes to the network because I'm running out of capacity in very crucial points? And what about network security? How is my device hardening? How is my zone hardening? And so on and so forth. So let's dig into each of them one by one, and let's do a little bit of a lightning round and see how this can work from a dashboard point of view. So first, let's look at config drift. Many customers are asking these questions. How many design rules do I have in my network? How many devices have these design rules implemented? Have any of my configurations drifted from these design rules? Have these config drifts caused any bigger issues? Well, now with a dashboard, we can answer these questions from a network-wide perspective. So here's an sample UI of a dashboard. So first, you can see that this is a dashboard of all the automations that you have built within your network today. So we can summarize it to answer a few of these things that we've talked about in the previous one. One, we have 352 different verification config rules that are implemented in the network. We've detected a number of different drift alerts, and we organize them by site. We can now also deep dive into specific types of configuration drifts, whether it's from BGP or OSPF, and all of this is interactive. Let me show you how. So let me now jump into our NetBrain product. And this is our new UI of our dashboard that looks at configuration drift. So as I mentioned before, we took a look at there's 352 different verification rules that I'm enforcing across my entire network. And across this result is I'm looking at configuration drift alerts across different sites. Now, each of these are completely interactive. So I can click around and say, well, this is all time, last 30 days. What if I want to just look at last 7 days? I can do that. I can look at it from my yesterday's point of view. And each of these UIs are completely interactive. So I can click in and drill down to see more. So it looks like my CXL lab has the most number of different configuration drifts. So as you can see, I have a number of different rules that seem to be in violation across different devices. And then also different types of status code. So very quickly, I'm able to see where the problems are on my config drift easily across my network. Behind this dashboard is the power of intents. So I can click into this particular intent, for example, and take a look at our very familiar intent UI. So this is checking for me whether or not any of my devices have transport import all or telnet basically enabled. And this is the data that I'm parsing, and this is the diagnosis that now then I'm seeing. And just as a common reminder, these diagnoses are simple if-else statements that basically a previous engineer a network engineer has built into my organization golden rules. And it's basically looking at if any of this contains either for my transport input contains telnet, or transport is transport or contains all, then I want to throw it up an alert. Very powerful. And all of this is there's thousands and tens of thousands of intents that are documented in this dashboard. So I can look at my BGP configuration drifts. It looks like I have 16. Can look at my OSPF, EIGRP, IPsec, route distribution, and many, many more. I can click into any of them and drill deeper and understand exactly where the issues are happening. Now, all of this is being powered by our automation network intents. And we also created a new reference automation library that's documented by our automation data table, where the automation that you and your engineers build can be organized in the form of different types of objects. So we can have configuration automation towards ACL, towards BGP configuration, toward static routing, towards switches. And behind all of this is a visualization documentation of all the different golden configurations and the different automations you can build towards them. So this one is looking for a configuration check. This is looking for a configuration drift. And as your engineers are building more and more of automation, all they have to do is install it into our automation library and to be visualized in the dashboard. Okay, great. Let us come back and take a look at another set of problems that I can ask myself. Instead of configuration drift, I could be looking at failover failure. I could be looking at, well, how many failover points do I have in my network? How many failover events have happened in the last week? Did they cause any issues? Were there any failover failures? And are there any potential drifts between my redundant devices and links? I can also be looking at capacity planning. Where are my critical links and what are my critical devices? What does my utilization trend look like? Are any of them close to saturation? Is it impacting any of my critical applications? And then I can be asking myself questions around network security. Are my devices hardened? Are my network zones intact with my configuration? Are my policies on border devices intact? And are my security rules for my edge devices enforced? All of this can be now answered using our dashboard and then the tens of thousands of automations that it's powered by. So let's switch back really quickly and take a look at some of these. Now, let's switch to my failover monitoring dashboard. Very quickly, I'm able to see a couple things. One is I can see a number of different types of failover points that are being documented. So here I have a failover WAN link. I have apparently my network, some ASA device failover that's running in HA. I have some first hop protocols, HSRP. And I also have some layer 2 STP. So as you can see here is we have a number of different types of widgets to answer a number of different questions. So very quickly, I'm able to see I have 3 critical WAN links that's discovered in my network. And I can look at it from a trend perspective, whether or not any of them have had a next hop state that's changed in the last 30 days. Furthermore, I can look at whether or not WAN link config drifts have happened. And I can also look at whether or not there are any critical applications across these WAN links that are throwing alerts in the last 30 days that may or may not be caused by any configuration drift or next hop changes. Now, I can look at the same for capacity planning. I can look at capacity planning of my critical WAN links, whether or not any of them are hitting close to utilization. I can click into them and see exactly that if there are alerts that are thrown, perhaps that my critical link and interface is exceeding its normal load. I can also look at whether or not any of my critical devices are hitting critical CPU and memory alerts. So there's so many different types of questions that I can now be answering using my dashboard powered by all these network intents that I have in the background. The last one I'll talk about quickly is around network security. I can here be looking at my network zones, whether or not any of my network zones are critical design rules are being violated, whether it's allow or disallow. I can also be looking at access switch rule. And I could be also looking at device hardening. The beauty of this is that this is powered by all the automations that, again, you built into the environment. And it's completely customizable, deep dive, drill downable, so that your engineers are able to observe the results of your automation, the outputs of your automation from a network-wide perspective. Okay, great. Now we talked about how we can visualize all of these intents in the dashboard. We've also built a new way for us to be able to trigger this automation from a Goldilocks way perspective. Now, there's a lot more that we can talk about here, but just know that the Looking Glass probe is a new innovation of ours that really utilizes critical network functions to be able to generate the least number of pulls from your network so that we can find the most important issues. Great. Now let's talk about diagnosis automation. How do we apply next-gen automation to enhance what's already in diagnostic automation today? When we think about diagnosis automation, it's all about automation that enhances your existing troubleshooting diagnosis workflows. So if we look at a typical workflow of whether it's user-reported issues or you're getting issues from your monitoring system, today we have this auto-diagnosis capability from automated mapping, verifying symptoms, looking at whether or not these issues it actually should be a P1 and P4 issue because it's impacting a critical application, and also validating against all the known problems. And in NextGen, we greatly enhance this capability that I'll ask my partner in crime, Raj, to show you in a number of different ways. But we want to extend upon our capability here from just auto-diagnosis to maybe we can now help with, before your user reports a manual issue, they can run a self-service chatbot where they can ask NetBrain to do the same automations that you are doing today, while without knowing too much about the network or what it is to run. So today, we're very excited to unveil your automation co-pilot, our NetBrain Chatbot. Through this capability, we give your network engineers to be able to package any of the automations that they built into a chatbot so that any user, whether it's from your end users, your IT engineers, your infrastructure engineers, security, application engineers, that may not have the full knowledge of the network, but they're all stakeholders in the network. They can run their own automation using the chatbot that you specifically built for them. So you can build a chatbot to help with a diagnosis-specific issue. You can build a chatbot to check for configuration drift. You can build a chatbot to validate critical applications. All of this is now in the power of your engineer's hands to turn their automation into chatbots where other people can use them. And the next thing we really wanted to enhance is our ability for our automations to take action. So now for the first time within our no-code automation unit, the network intent, our diagnosis now are now able to take action through adding a follow-up action, whether through a webhook or through send an email or through a number of different actions to be able to generate notification to other systems. So the things that this can now accomplish are things like it can auto-close a ticket within ITSM. It can raise the priority of a ticket in ITSM if it's deemed that the impact analysis that is affecting a greater application. So we're really excited to unveil this capability within our automation unit, where our network intent diagnosis can now define outgoing webhooks to allow for creating, updating, even closing of these tickets based on the results of the network intent. So this is a lot of theory, and I want to now turn it over to my partner in crime, Raj, to really demonstrate to you what this will look like. Raj, over to you.
Thank you, Song. Now, we all know how amazing NetBrain is when it comes to mapping because it creates a digital twin of your network, not just on a device level, but also on a topology and an intent level. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit. Because when you have to go create a map, it's very easy to go look for a device, drag and drop it on the map, and then immediately extend its neighbors and you have a map. But a little more complex technologies such as multicasting or maybe extending BGP neighbors of a certain AS number, it would require you to have certain prior knowledge. Like in this quick demo, I'm going to show you how I extend my multicasting neighbors based on the group and the source that I'm subscribed to. So how do I do that? So in this case, what I'm going to do is just put one of my devices on the map and then go look for auto intents. Now, auto intents has completely revolutionized the way we do mapping and diagnosis with NetBrain. They're extremely powerful, and if well organized, it can do a lot of heavy lifting for you. So in this case, I have some common mapping that I usually do, and I've got auto intents for that, right? It could be about interface, BGP, multicasting, OSPF, some of the basic ones. Now, the ones that is relevant for this device are listed out in front of you. What you have to do is select multicasting, for example, and then this is something new that we've added. We want to feed data into the network intent. And the reason we want to do that is because sometimes important, critical, complex technologies like these would require some kind of an input from the user, right? So here, what I want to do is I want to just punch in the group and the source real quick. So let me do that. It's going to be, there we go. Now, for multicasting, it's the source and group. For an interface, it could just be the interface. For BGP, it could be your AS number or maybe a certain neighbor that you're looking for. So you can always customize this according to what your network intent does. Now, in this case, all it needs is my source and group, and I'm going to hit apply and quickly create this network intent on the fly. There we go. And I'm going to run this real quick to get some live data. Now, what's happening right now is it takes this group and this source, it gets into the device, runs a bunch of show commands, and finds out what are the upstream and downstream devices. And on top of that, it also does diagnosis. And let's find out how we see the results of it. Now, green is good. There's 3 ways to look at the results. Number 1, hit on the eye icon. And what it does for me is it'll ask me that, hey, Raj, looks like there are neighbors or devices that needs to be on the map right now. Do you want to continue? Let's say yes. And then immediately what it does is it will draw out the entire multicasting diagram for me. And this is beautiful. If you look at the legend right there, it's going to tell me what the last hop is and what the first hop is. So if I scroll all the way down, I'll be able to go find my first hop. There we go. And if you notice on top of just diagramming, we also have the greens. And it just tells me that the neighbor matches with the baseline and the configuration matches with last time. It'll just make sure for me that nothing has changed from last time, because right now I'm just mapping this out of curiosity. But if I were to run a troubleshooting process, I would start the same way. Next, let us look at the interface flapping example that I was mentioning. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to create a nice new map from scratch and then look for that affected device. And in this scenario, I'm just taking a ticket as an example. So let's say I get a ticket which says there's a certain device, and I'm going to take Boston switch 3, for example. There we go. And I'll repeat the same exact drill. I'm going to drag and drop this guy here on the map, and then I'll get into the auto intent. But this time, instead of running the multicasting, as you can see, the multicasting is not even a choice over here. This is because it is not relevant for this device. But interface troubleshooting is. So I'm going to select the interface troubleshooting, and then it's going to ask me input, because what interface are we referring to? So let's do Ethernet 0/1. And let it create this network intent for me. It's pretty quick. Now I'm going to hit the run button and the same question. So it's going to ask me, hey, do you want to call a webhook API? So we'll hold on to this. We'll come back and explain that in a few minutes. For now, just let me say no. And then I'm going to put the results on the map. Same question. It tells me that there is an interface which is not on the map. Do you want to put it? I said yes. And now if I go back and see, let me zoom in a little bit. It has done exactly what I asked it to. So it extended that interface for me and drew that neighbor out. So I did not have to know about the neighbor, but it draws it out for me based on that interface. And then it also performs some diagnosis. Now, what diagnosis did it do? It's very easy to find out through the diagnosis tree. So what is my intent doing here? Three things. Okay, number one, it's going to draw that map for me, because if there's a problem on a certain site, on a certain network, you want to know exactly where this is happening and what are the immediately connected devices or the dependencies on the map. So you can put that through the draw option or the mapping, like we call it. Secondly, it used some follow-up ADT. Now, what does that mean? So remember how Song was talking to us about all of these critical design ADTs that you have. And now we can use those ADTs and then assist that, and that's going to assist us in troubleshooting. How do we do that? So there's two things that we do from here. Number one, we want to find out the root causes. So what do? We get to the device or that switch and start looking for common problems. Is the MTU okay? Right? Is there a speed duplex issue? Is there an interface problem? Increasing errors, all of that. So all of that is green, which means that we were not able to go find any problem from some of the basic checks, which is okay. Next, what I also want to do is I want to look at the ADT of the critical applications. And the reason we want to do that is because it's not just about finding out the root cause, but then when you have a problem, you also want to go find out the impacted critical assets in your network. Because the problem might fix itself. It could be a transient issue. But as a result, what if one of your applications went down, or maybe it failed over, or whatever the reason is? So here, very intelligently, it actually gets into my critical applications ADT and then verifies the paths, and not every path or application, but the application or paths where this particular device is present as part of that path. So it does all of that checks for me. And by the way, this all happened in less than 2 seconds, like you saw. I hit the run button and it does all of these checks for me, which is pretty awesome. Now I'm going to X out of this, and I will take a minute here to kind of explain the network intent a little bit. So let me open this up. So like I said, it does three things, right? It checks out, it draws things out for me, and then it'll do, it's going to verify the symptoms for me. It's going to go find out if there's an impacted application, look for root causes. But then one new addition over here is it helps me update or close the ticket with the help of a webhook. And this is especially in the cases where this problem comes in through a ticketing system. So if I look at my ticketing system here, I got this problem a few days ago, same exact problem, right? The same device, same Ethernet interface. And then if I scroll down, it tells me everything is green. And as a result of that, you can see that my ticket was auto-closed. So how did that happen? Let's take a look. I'm going to edit this network intent real quick and then get into the closed ticket group. Now, as a built-in feature in NetBrain, you can now add a webhook to any of your conditions. So in this scenario, if whatever condition is true, you get to set that, okay? You can add a webhook API and you can say, hey, I want to update my ticket, or I want to close my ticket, right? Or even better, if you want to, if you found an error that you need to send to a different system, you could do that as well. Or maybe you just want to send out an email to a group saying that, hey, there's a problem. We have that now. We have those capabilities inside of an incident or of a network intent. And this, by the way, is out of the box. So you get to choose what you want to do based on certain condition. For example, if everything is green and if my interface is up and there's no problem, right? It could be a false alarm and I want to close my ticket. That's possible. Maybe I don't want to close my ticket, but I want to reduce the priority on this. I could do that. Or maybe I found a problem. I want to raise my priority and alert a certain group. I could do that as well. So with the help of these webhooks and the additional logics inside of an intent, now we don't really have to worry about going out and creating those extra hooks to other products. Now let me X out of this real quick. There we go. So what I just did was something that I was doing manually, right? I looked at the ticket, I went in there, I created that map, I let NetBrain do diagnosis for me, all of that, which is amazing because now I got NetBrain's assistants to do that. But if you want this to be part of your workflow, so let's say there's a monitoring tool which catches a problem. It alerts your ticketing system. Now, ticketing system can send an API call to NetBrain, and then NetBrain can do all of that automatically. So you don't really have to be actively involved in it, because what if you're not at work and this happens, right? So NetBrain's going to do the same exact drill. Let me open this up in NetBrain. And if you're familiar with NetBrain, it sticks to the same drill, right? It's going to create the map of the area of the incident, and then it's going to load all of your messages. Let me switch this real quick. It's going to load all of your messages in the message pane, and then each of these messages actually diagnoses results, right? Everything is green, which is good news, and this is why the ticket was closed automatically. Now, moving further, everything is okay, right? The ticket closed itself, everything is green, no impacted application, but that doesn't mean the problem is going to go away. It's a transient problem, right? Flapping problems, slow voice problems, and there's so many other problems that we come across in our day-to-day lives, which is very hard to catch. And probably I just got unlucky here, and everything is green. So what do? I can take one step forward and convert all of these intents, because the work has been done. I know what intents to run. NetBrain knows what to do, but can I extend this over a period of time and then set a frequency to it? And that's exactly what we can do with the help of a dashboard. So what I did in this dashboard is I'm using the same intents, right? Looking for interface status, but I'm going to extend it over a period of time, maybe a few days. And then I'm going to say, hey, run every 15 minutes, get me data. And not just that, get me some path data as well, because I want to know that if, let's say, a few minutes later, this happens again, right? There's an application down again. Did it impact any of my applications? Do I get any alert on that, right? And this is how you can use some of those dashboards that Song was talking about and customize this, right, according to your own needs. Because this dashboard will literally take me less than 5 minutes to spin up. But now I can monitor a very specific problem on a very specific device for a longer period of time. So this way, you're not creating extra noise in the network as well. With that, my demo on diagnosis automation is almost done. But we already also introduced a new technology, because here, if you think about it, I was either looking at a ticket that came to me and I started doing this in NetBrain, or maybe the ticketing system triggered NetBrain and NetBrain was automatically doing it. But now there's a third category, and this is on demand. So we've introduced bots, chatbots, because chatbots is the next thing, right? So we've introduced bots inside of NetBrain, and we have programmed it in such a way that you can ask these bots any question about the network, or probably ask them to diagnose something for you, and they're going to get back with results. In the backbone, we're using the same technologies that we discussed, but it's just a new interface so that other people in your organization, probably cross organization, right? They could use these bots and gather some very basic data that they need about the network, and you get to control what that data is. So let me give you a quick demo of how our Autobots are. So it's extremely easy to look for. All you have to do is get to the Autobot section at the bottom, and then you can start looking for the bot that you want. Now, there's a variety of bots available right here that I've built for myself. The one I'm really interested is in the multicasting bot. So let me see if I can find them. There we go, and launch this. And the reason I'm using the multicasting bot is because I want to show you how different it is when I do this manually by getting into NetBrain and doing it by myself versus using a bot to do this. Now here, I just have to hit start. The cool thing is that you can share this bot access to whoever you want to. So this way, they don't have to bother other engineers or bother you to get to the diagnosis. They can do this by themselves. Now here, one option I can multiple of them. I'm going to go select the multicasting diagnosis, and same question: what device are we looking for? All right, I'm looking for my R11. Great. The cool thing is that I don't have to learn the IPs. I get a drop down to choose from, so I can always do this. Submit. And right now it's working on those IP addresses, and the same exact result is going to be displayed because we are using the same intents and the same backend. There we go. So here, diagnosis done on 10 devices, 0 error messages on 0 devices. So this is good news, right? You can quickly take a look at the diagnosis tree, it will look exactly like the one that we saw earlier. And then if I go to the incident link, it has written down all of the diagnosis steps inside of that incident, which I can use and I can share with other folks as well. Look at that. So I have my map and I have all of the diagnosis results here. So these bots are extremely powerful and they can be used to cater to certain problems, or if I just wanted to go in there and run mapping for myself, for example, I can create a bot just for mapping, layer 2, layer 3, WAN, wireless, all of that included, right? So now it really depends on how you want to use these bots and who you want to give access to for these bots. And then it will just make life easy and it will increase the accessibility of NetBrain within the organization. With that, that is all I wanted to share on my end from the diagnosis automation, and I'm going to pass it back to Song.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raj. All really powerful stuff. Really, really exciting. Now, it brings us to the third and final section of our webinar today, which is really applying next-gen automation to application performance. Now, when we thought about building automation for application performance, we realized that applications are now today increasing more and more hybrid. It traverses your traditional network on-prem to your cloud, to your SDN. And we know our customers want to visualize all of their critical applications in one environment, in one place. We also really want to make it easy for automation to be replicated across these paths, not one path at a time, but really one network at a time. To enable a lot of these things, the first thing we did is to really enable the next level of hybrid network visibility and automation. In our no-code automation unit in network intent, we extended the support to a visual parser for APIs. Now, this allows us to interrogate and to be able to consume information from any API source, controllers, whether it's from the cloud or SDN, and be able to turn that into no-code automation diagnosis that you're familiar with today. So now we can ask the network and the cloud questions like, are your BGP sessions healthy? Are your express route gateway connections healthy and reliable? And we can even do the same type of preventive automation that we did on the cloud as we do on the on-prem environment. Looking at configuration drift, looking at capacity planning, looking at failover failures. So for the last time, I also turn it back to Raj to really demonstrate to you what this will look like today. Over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Song. Now, this is no secret that most organizations today are looking to migrate or move their critical assets to the cloud. From a resource perspective, this is amazing because you don't have to take care of a lot of the system level details. However, if you think about from a networking perspective, when there's a problem, do you have the right visibility inside of the cloud? Do you understand different elements from that cloud, right? When there's a problem, how are you going to troubleshoot this? And not just cloud, but it could be a software-defined network. It could be an SD-WAN, right? Going from on-prem to that particular application, which is hosted somewhere else, there are a lot of things, moving parts in the middle. And having something like NetBrain, we can pull all of that together on a single pane of glass. So we've already seen how powerful NetBrain is, or network intents are, with traditional networks. Now, what we have done is in this latest release, in the NextGen release, we've taken those intent capabilities, and now instead of just doing it on the traditional network, we can do it on a hybrid platform. Now, to give you an example, a quick demo here, you can clearly see that there is an on-prem application, which is there's a cloud application, and there's a path which goes from one of my systems on-prem to that Azure VM hosted in the cloud. Now, as you can see, there is a 40-gate firewall on-premise, and then we see a bunch of components in the cloud. So how do we troubleshoot this? How do I know what the health of my network looks like? How do I know if my VPN is okay? How do I know if my BGP sessions are up? Now, this is where network intents come into picture. Now, before I can run some network intents, I just want to give you a quick idea of how do we communicate with the cloud. And you got it right. It's with the help of our API parsers. So just like our regular parsers, which can do a CLI command, the API parsers are grabbing information through a script from that API and we're converting that into configlets. So this way, if you're looking for something specific, like is BGP enabled, you got your answer there, right? And this is on an express gateway. We got a VNet router, same drill. We got a VM, same drill. We've created configlets inside of NetBrain so that for you, it's a seamless experience. Now you could use cloud APIs inside of NetBrain without any additional coding, right? And then you can gather and all of this important information and convert that into a network intent. So let's see this in action. Now I'm going to repeat this for the third time, but this is exactly how I do all of my troubleshooting and mapping. I'm going to go to my intent, and under the auto intent section, I'm going to look for things which is relevant for me. And as you can see, there's a bunch of things. Number one, security compliance. Hey, am I complied? Am I still compliant with my security, right? Is there any public IP assigned? Is there any SSH enabled on my VM? Important things like these. Configuration compliance. Is my configuration same as last week or as the golden, like we call it? Hybrid network BGP session. I like this one. So I'm going to select this because this is not just looking at Azure, but also my firewall on-prem. So I'm going to create this real quick. And there we go. So we have the network intent created on the fly for these three specific devices, and they're looking for BGP sessions. So let's run this real quick. I don't want to send any email right now, but that's a good option. So if you found a problem, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to send an email? You'll always say yes to it. So it's in a few seconds, we run that and I see red, which is not good news. Now, before I can highlight this on the map, let's take a quick look at the diagnosis tree to understand what's happening. There we go, very simple intent. It's going to be looking at the 40 gate, it's going to be looking at the express gateway, and then it's looking at the other one as well. And it's just finding out if there is any BGP routing issue, okay? So let's X out of this and then view the results on the map. There we go. And we did find a problem. So BGP setup not completed on the firewall, and then BGP peer not connected on the VPN gateway. And hence, this just proves the fact that the BGP session is not going to be working. So there is a problem, right? Now, this is a very specific BGP example, but this example could be something else. This could be looking for latency. This could be looking for other routing changes. Right? Now, what I can also do is let's take this one step further, because this is one application and one intent on one application, but I have hundreds and thousands of intents, which has been replicated on the fly, and I have hundreds of applications. So question is, can I build a dashboard where I can have all of my applications and all of these intents over there so that I don't have to worry about, hey, did I miss out on any intents while troubleshooting it? No, we got the dashboard right in front of you. So let's do that real quick. And for this, we'll switch over to our dashboards. And for this, we'll switch over to our dashboards. So let's open the application dashboard that I built. Now, the critical application dashboard is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just take a couple of minutes here to kind of explain what's happening. On the left-hand side, you can see that we have 13 applications, critical applications, and these applications have multiple paths in them, right? And we have a bunch of verification rules. Now, the cool part is this would manually take me a lot of time, right? Let alone continuously monitoring this, but this has been monitored. This is the result of the last 30 days, and I can view the report real quick to find out what's been happening, what are these applications, what are the paths, and then each of them has a map attached to it, right? The same thing. In the last 30 days, there's 2%, or I would say there's 2 applications that failed, right? Out of the 32. I'm curious to find out what happened, right? So you can always look at the results, look at the report. By the way, I can always attach a alert to it, which means if something fails, I don't have to be looking at the dashboard all the time. I can receive an email or maybe you can open a ticket, but this is just for demonstration purpose. And again, we're not just talking about application reachability, but then is there a config drift? Was there a failover? Did my next hop change, right? Is there delays in the application, right? Or is there latency issues? And you can find out what that latency issue was, on what device was it, and as long as you have the ping enabled, of course, you can always ping that particular output and then find out if there was delay on any of these. right? So this is super critical. Doing this manually takes me a lot of time. And yes, there are ways to do this outside of the dashboard, but the dashboard can organize everything for you. So as a user, you're not worried about how my backend looks like. All you're worried about is, hey, did something break here? And can I open a ticket? Can I speak to the one who's responsible for maintaining it, right? So with that, we are towards the end of our demonstration, and I'm going to pass it back to Song.
Great, thank you, Raj. That was very powerful stuff. So we now really fully extended our no-code automation into the cloud, and you can see all the great dashboards that we can build for critical applications. So now I want to wrap up this webinar by saying that there are hundreds of improvements in NetBrain Next-Gen, and we've only been able to scratch the surface. Here I listed a couple of different major things that some of them which we talked about and some which we haven't. But all of this builds towards really enhancing our no-code platform so anyone is able to build automation and to be able to be used by everyone. So what's next? Well, we encourage you to learn more about our next-gen release at netbraintech.com/new release. For those that are either whether you're a customer or you will be a future customer, we encourage you to request a demo to really see in-depth view of exactly how NextGen can help you. And if you're a customer today, request an upgrade. And for a lot of our customers, we've already made it available. And please request an upgrade so you can get yourself front in the line and really join in on the no-code movement. So with that, I want to thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Raj, for doing the demos. And I believe we have some time for questions.
Hey, Song. We do have some questions coming in. Will the Autobot be an additional license to purchase? I don't know, maybe if Raj or Song can answer.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks, Claudio. So the Autobot will not take a seat license. However, it will use up the intent execution quota on a daily basis, which the PA license and the PA module completely releases.
Okay, good to know. Another question is, let's say we want to get the CDP information collected by NetBrain. Is there an API object I could request?
Sure. So if it's a common CDP table from the traditional devices, we access that through a CLI. If it's a particular CDP information that you're trying to get from a device that it's led through a controller, then we can definitely, typically we probably already have a tech spec that are able to already log into the controller and retrieve that information through API already. But let us know what is specifically the device type you're thinking of, and we'll be happy to help you.
Another question is, does the automation span across multiple domains?
Great question. So the automations are domain specific. So the automations that you build will belong to a particular domain. However, that can be easily transported and exported and imported over to the other domains as well, especially for our multi-domain MSP customers out there.
A follow-up on the chatbot. It takes up intent executions, which are consumed with the PA license. But do you need the PA license for the automation bot to work?
You do not. So with the Autobot, you can use be able to trigger the intents and use up the kind of the daily quota that's already part of the product itself. To completely remove that quota, however, we will need the PA license itself.
Okay, excellent. There is a question about, is this webinar being recorded? And yes, this webinar will be available on demand as soon as we're done here. Another one is, what version of NetBrain is this available in?
Sure thing. This is available in the what we call NetBrain Next-Gen version that's just been released. So if you're for all our customers out there, you can log into, I believe, the system update page, and then there will be an auto update function that will alert to the new version starting from either today or maybe last week from some of our existing customers. And if you don't have that, please let us know. And at support@netbraintech.com, and then we'll be able to help you get upgraded.
And this is our latest release, NextGen, and this follows the R11, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And what licensing is required for the full automation of intents?
Sure thing. So that would be the PA license, our preventive automation license module. So that will be you will be able to build, use to the unlimited extent of all the intents that we've shown here today.
Got it. And last question. One user loves the new features, but has no idea how to get started, right? They also don't have unlimited time for trial and error learning. So how can they get started learning on building this automation with NetBrain? Building intents, building reports, building dashboards, and the automation bot.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of resources that are available for our customers out there. One is if at any point you run into issues, we have an automation hotline that you can reach out to directly. So within the product itself, you're able to open up a support ticket, or you can just send a support@netbraintech.com ticket and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I've got to this place and I'm really getting stuck. Can you please help me? And our automation hotline engineers will be happy to be able to support you right away. Secondly is our MBU. So in our NetBrain University, right now, there are plenty of resources that will teach you how to build the basic intents, as well as we're upgrading it and updating it for the next gen. We're also building a 2-day power user training that we'll be holding across different parts of the country that we'll be unveiling soon. So to provide the resources and the help and enablement that all of our customers would want. So and whenever in doubt, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you.
I feel like we should also mention the immersion training that we have, I believe, once a quarter.
Once a month, actually. Yeah,
Wow,
once a month. Yeah, so in different locations. So we hold a lots of it here in our Boston headquarters. We've also had it over in Munich as well as the UK. So on our website, there is a schedule, and our next one, I believe it's in June, that's coming up here in our Boston office, and then as well as in July that our customers and users can sign up for.
And will the new training materials reflect all these new features?
Yes, it will.
Awesome. So we still have more questions coming in. Here's one. Will NetBrain support us to create network intents? Is that part of support, or do we need any specific? Is there a special support package that they would need to purchase?
Nope. So this will be part of if you're a current customer, and this is going to be part of our support and automation hotline. So please feel free to reach out to us at any point where you have difficulty or questions around how to build an automation or network intent. We'll be happy to help you.
Okay. Maybe we'll give it a few more seconds, see if any last questions come in. I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, Song. Thank you, Raj. Excellent presentation. Very excited about the news release. And I just want a quick reminder for everyone, this will be available on demand. So if you miss any part of it, you can go back and view any piece.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.